I'm Darlene, and today I'm going to try the Realism Drawing Challenge. I am a traditional pencil portrait artist for the most part, but I'm actually going to try drawing this digitally with the Wacom Cintiq Pro 16 and the Pro Pen 2. So the rules are, I can only use one brush and the eraser tool. That's it. I cannot press undo, no zooming in or out, no use of layers, and certainly no using the line tool. A physical ruler is absolutely not allowed. Since I can't use the majority of these fancy Photoshop tools, let me get rid of all of these distractions by going full screen. So I have the pen tip, I have the eraser, and I can resize the brush using these two buttons. And that's basically all I'm allowed to do. Just trying to make this experience feel as close to drawing with pencil and paper as possible. Let's get started. I'm going to use a very small brush size, so the stylus feels similar to a mechanical pencil. So I'm starting out with a somewhat rough outline. I have to make sure the length and height of my drawing is the same as the photo, first of all, so I can draw to scale. I take measurements of the subject using my stylus and transfer the measurement as best as I can to my drawing. I try to get some of the angles measured as well. The more you measure, the more accurate your drawing will end up becoming. And as you can see, I'm not measuring as much as I should be, and that's because I'm way too excited to start adding the details. But this stage right here really is the most important if you're trying to achieve a high level of accuracy. Right here, I'm making sure the angle of the threaded section is as accurate as I can get it. And then, instead of drawing each thread, I start out with a simple cylinder shape, which is sort of what the tail of the sprue looks like to me as a whole. At this stage, I can always tweak my sketch because not much time and detail have been dedicated. Also using very little pressure to draw, so the lines are extra light, which makes them feel less permanent. Once I'm ready to shade, I like to start with the darkest areas. The most difficult thing to do with a small brush, which you can probably tell already, is shading smoothly. Since it's against the rules to zoom in or use special effects such as blurring, my strokes will appear scratchy, unless I can keep them very close together. Now, for some reason, I decided to do cross-hatching, which is where all the strokes sort of cross through each other in random directions. This was a big mistake because it's really apparent. For smoother shading, circulism, contouring, or hatching is what I personally prefer. Shading around highlights can be very tedious, so I shaded a large portion of the screw and then added the highlights after. Now, drawing highlights has got to be the most satisfying thing, especially for this drawing because there's such a huge contrast. The drawing just immediately pops when the highlights are added. It sounds tedious, but I found erasing highly enjoyable. Throughout the entire process, I didn't feel the need to press the undo button. I just really enjoyed adding or removing paint manually because I felt it easy to do, and that's due to the massive amounts of pressure sensitivity built into this pen. It's really fun using the Cintiq Pro like this, basically limiting myself to just one brush and the eraser, so I don't have to deal with Photoshop layers and switching between tools. That made it a very zen and uninterrupted drawing experience. Not quite sure what happened here, but the threads ended up too far apart from each other. Anyway, this part of the drawing was pretty intimidating, so I didn't refer to the reference image as closely as I should have. Regardless, I think it turned out looking great. Shading the cast shadow, however, was a big relief because it was pretty straightforward in terms of lighting. At an attempt to fix my cross-hatching and make the overall texture look smooth, the brush was adjusted to a slightly smaller diameter so that the thin white spaces between each stroke of paint could be filled. Well, actually it would have taken forever to do that, so I went for the most prominent spots. When drawing with traditional materials, I'll usually blend the drawing out with a tissue or blending stump to smooth out those inconsistencies. Since I stupidly decided that smudging/blurring is not allowed in this challenge, I think this is the best that I can do. The shading does make the screw look more like a brushed metal, which looks great in my opinion, just not accurate if you're comparing the two screws. As for the most difficult part of this challenge, it was actually the time constraint. I spent half of the day literally just deciding on a reference subject, and then by the time I started drawing, I only had about 3 hours to film. So I got into a very sloppy mode, especially nearing the end. And I definitely could have done a lot more measuring for greater likeness. I was nervous to do this at first, but I'm really pleased with the results and proud of myself for completing it. It doesn't look very realistic close up, but it does from far away. What do you guys think? Did I successfully complete the Realism challenge? I don't know who started this, but I'll link to some Realism challenge videos down below by some awesome YouTubers. You can also find the tools and the brush that I used down below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next one.